Hi everyone. I was actually going to take a break this week. I just gave myself a week off from making videos, but I just want to share this with you. So I just turn my camera on and see how it goes. So it's probably going to be slightly disorganized, maybe. I apologize in advance. So you might have seen the title. It says I'm moving on. I've decided to go on trainings to become a yoga teacher. So for those of you who have been following my videos, you probably have heard me go on and on about yoga. So I've been sort of doing yoga since probably back in 2012, on and off. There were times that I totally didn't do anything. But the past couple of years, I kind of fell in love with it all over again. And particularly past 1 year since I've been on keto, it definitely changed my body in the sense that I felt I could take on a lot more. I'm no longer at mercy of sort of what my body does. I have a lot more control over how my body functions. And that kind of enables me to become stronger and be able to really pursue it a lot more vigorously. And to be honest, the idea of teaching never really occurred to me till very, very recently. I knew something was kind of brewing inside me, but I didn't know what it was. A lot of the times we kind of ignore our intuition and kind of intellectually talking ourselves out of sort of hints the universe is trying to give us. And I kind of did that for a while. So I have been working in design. So I'm a designer. I work in sort of a technology area. I designed apps and stuff like that. So I started off doing websites and then moved on to mobile apps, kind of interface design. So that has been sort of my role as far as work goes. So if people ask me, what do you do? I say, I'm a designer, without even thinking, as if designer was my identity. To do anything that departs from that just sounds so far-fetched. I almost never consider anything other than doing what I was doing. So quite a lot happened in the past couple of years, 2-3 years, particularly back in 2016. I lost both my parents within a very short period of time, probably within 6 months. I went from having both parents to neither. It was kind of a life-changing experience. It has to change you in some way, for the better or worse. I think when you go through something that's extremely traumatic, when your whole life is literally taken apart in pieces, and you try to look for these fragments and try to put them together, you notice things that you didn't notice before. You see things in a very different perspective, and very often it's a cliche. And when we're stuck in a certain mindset, we're often told, you need to look at things in different perspective. But sometimes it's not possible because we're so fixed one way. We have a certain worldview that's very hard to shift. And it takes something totally traumatic and something that breaks you apart for you to be able to, find those different ways of looking at life that you weren't capable before. So it's not an intellectual exercise. I don't think it's a bit like telling someone who's depressed to cheer up. It's not something you can physically initiate. It's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult. Through the experience of losing both my parents, I know a lot of people lose their parents in terrible ways. And I'm in no way suggesting my pain was greater than anyone else, but it probably highlighted how lucky I was that prior to that, there was no major sort of setback or trauma in my life. I mean, other than losing the cats I really love, my dear friends, my life had been reasonably smooth sailing. But through losing my parents, particularly my mom, I was extremely close to my mom. I say she was the closest person I had on the planet. I no longer have her. So that realization was so shocking. It knocked me sideways for probably about a good year and a half afterwards. I wasn't functioning fully as myself. and it's hardly surprising. And it was roughly about a year and a half after losing my mom, I started this channel without knowing where it was going or what I really wanted to do, but other than a hunch, a kind of instinct that goes, maybe you can do something with it. I wanted to share something and to help people in some way. I didn't know how it was going to manifest itself. I have no idea. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I had nothing to lose. I was in pieces, so whatever I could do can only be better. And that was my thinking. So with that kind of instinct, I followed that instinct and started the channel. So from previous year and a half, from barely able to get out of bed without breaking down, to being able to pick up the camera and be able to talk to the camera and hopefully, talk to an audience. It was nothing but a blind faith that maybe I could go somewhere. And, and this is still a very young and very small channel, but I'm sort of overwhelmed daily by how many of you that kind of tune in and watch the content and comment particularly. And some comments were so... There's so many comments that's so kind and so heartfelt that I was just totally humbled. I thought, whoa, it's just me, being in the kitchen or wherever, and with the camera, talking to myself. And there you are, watching and get something out of it. It was so rewarding. It kind of made me look into my life and the work I do on a daily basis that, I've been a designer for probably close to 10 years. My line of work is actually creating useful products for end users and in hope to enhance their life in some way. But all the years I'm in the field, I've never had my users come to me and say, well, either it's really good or terrible. Because the corporate environment, the whole corporate setup they tend to be layers and divisions, and you really have very little contact with people you're serving. You come across some representative in workshops and stuff like that, but other than that, you just don't meet them in real life. And even they love it or they hate it, they can't tell you because they don't know who you are. They have no access to you. And it's a totally drastic contrast with doing something like YouTube, is that I have 100% control of what I do. No one tells me what to do. I decided if I succeed or I fail, it's all on me. With great responsibilities, it also comes with great freedom because whatever I put out there is authentically me. So when you express that it's useful to you, it goes right in there. Because I know it's true. There's no filter. You don't have to be polite to me. You have no obligation to do that. But just daily basis, I'm overwhelmed by the kindness. Not just you being kind, but actually taking the trouble of writing a comment or even press the like button or even just watching it. I'm just floored every day just thinking about that. And my channel is still very young and quite very small, but it's growing and I'm really grateful for your support. And I'm taking so much pleasure in making content. I don't try to think up what you would like. That's a trap I don't want to go down. I don't want to second guess what you like because I don't think I will ever get that because everybody is so different and so diverse. All I can do is to share what works for me, what brings me pleasure. And I share it, and hopefully it will bring you pleasure as well. And I kind of realized that earlier on that this is the only way it could be sustainable. It has to have that integrity and authenticity. And so it was a gut instinct that took me here. And same thing with pursuing yoga. I never really thought about teaching, ever. I just loved it. I would say it saved my life in a way. Ketogenic diet changed my life in a significant way, but yoga saved my life probably many times over. It kind of gives me so much emotional strength through putting my body through difficult tasks. And the kind of joy, physically, emotionally, you feel after a practice is just tremendous. There's nothing else gives me that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness. When something gives you pleasure, you tend to do more, and that's what I did. And I think going on ketogenic diet definitely changed my body in a way that I have control over my body for the first time in my entire life. And it sounds so absurd because, we live in this vessel every day, 24 hours a day, but it kind of dominated my life rather than the other way around. I think you cannot trivialize the importance of what you put in your body. It's not about trying to be slim or trying to be a certain shape. It's that fundamental human right of being to feel well, being able to function well, and have that mental and physical balance. And that's a human right. Many of us kind of give up on that because we are not able to control our body and make it do what we want it to do. And that's not through our own faults. That is through the knowledge we've been given. It was deeply flawed. I don't know if keto has all the answers, but I can tell you that I talked a little bit about this in the previous videos that I used to pursue dance when I was a teenager. I wanted to become a dancer, and I decided to give up, not because I lost love for dance. It was simply because my body was going all over the place. I was, puberty. My body was going out of control. I was gaining weight. I couldn't keep my body in the kind of physical shape that I felt I needed to be in order to be a professional dancer. And that situation was really real. It wasn't about vanity. It wasn't me trying to be beautiful. It was simply because this instrument this vessel I was living in just wasn't serving me. I think a lot of us just simply felt that our body is dominating us. We're kind of slave to our body because we don't know what our body does. I think if you're watching this channel, you're either vegan or have some sort of interest into veganism, and also interested in managing your body better because it's a keto-focused vegan channel. And you cannot understate the impact it has on your life when you have very little control in terms of the type of food you eat or how much you eat, and as a result, what it does to your body, how it manifests in your physical shape and well-being. And this is not carb bashing. I think some people can manage carb and processed carb and sugar very well, but many of us can't do that. I'm one of them. And I know that through the experience of, going on and off all sorts of diets up to this point. Periodically, you'll go on some sort of juice fast or detox or some sort of calorie reduced diet. And in an attempt to control this body, it sounds so absurd. I mean, we live in this vessel 24 hours a day, but we have no control over it. Anything you try to do to it requires willpower. And that's where a lot of us fail. I think anything simply requires willpower to do will eventually fail. And we can see evidence everywhere. And that's in diet, that's in exercise. I can encourage you to do yoga or Pilates or any kind of workout, jogging. If through the process you cannot find love for it, eventually you're going to give up. All encouragement can do is for you to take that initiative to try it. But ultimately, you have to find the love for it. So if you love it, you don't need willpower. And things just flow and it's easy. And you get up in the morning, you really want to do it. And the same thing with food that we eat, the diet we have. It's the problem with us who cannot process carb and sugar very well, and probably very small percentage of people who can do that very well, just by looking at how many people are looking for a different kind of diets, is that if we go on a way of eating that requires us to be 100% disciplined and to be regimented about it, eventually we're going to fail, we're going to give up. Because there's bound to be a day or two or whatever, something happens in our lives that either we get upset or something traumatic happens, that whatever we eat becomes secondary, and we go into that sort of primal mode that we just eat something that makes us feel better instantly. And very often in the kind of environment that we're in is to eat something that's, maybe junk food or something. That happens a lot. A lot of people kind of comfort eat, and it goes into that vicious spiral, and you can't get out, and you give up. It happened to me. It happened to many of you, I'm sure. So I recognize the pitfall, and that's where ketogenic diet is totally different in that regard. Is that it kind of engineered your body in a way that you no longer need to rely on willpower. I mean, I totally almost don't think about it. I'm sort of borderline need to encourage myself to eat more because I'm just not hungry most of the time. I forget to eat, or I only eat one meal a day, which is probably not enough. And it's such a strange situation to be in, because how many times in your life, I can look back in my life and before I went on keto, there was just no occasion that I have to just, kind of encourage myself to eat more, because I didn't need any encouragement. And I think that's what sugar and carb does. It just sends you on this trip that you just can't find your way back. Again, I have to emphasize this is not about how much you weigh or being a certain shape or size in inches. None of that. It's about having a dignified way of living. We're not just at the mercy of these impulses that we cannot control. If you're on the sugar high and low constantly, there's no amount of willpower that's enough to keep them at bay. Eventually you're going to break. If anything requires willpower, it probably won't last. Just think about that. So my decision to pursue yoga is closely linked to the fact that for whatever reason I decided to go on keto. It's going to sound a little bit woo-woo, but I think when the universe is preparing you for something, to go on a different path, it rarely just sends you off and just go do it. In mysterious ways, it tries to prepare you for the journey. I've tried all sorts of things in terms of, food and diet and exercise. I was reasonably active. For whatever reason, I chose to go on keto, and also taking this channel to that direction. And I felt that not only that I'm benefited by the results of being on keto, but also I'm able to share that experience with others and hopefully can help some people. And because I'm able to get my body in the best condition probably I have ever been in my entire life, including my dancing days, I felt mentally and physically strong enough that I felt like I can pursue yoga, maybe as a career. I don't know. I think the goal isn't so much to become a teacher. It's more of to learn the skills that maybe at some point I'm able to use the skill to help others. And also to further my own practice. I would categorically say that if I hadn't been on keto and be able to learn so much about my body, I don't think it would ever be possible that I'll ever consider pursuing yoga teaching. And I think everything kind of just worked together. I think all these things seemingly random, me looking for a diet so I can feel a bit better about myself and starting a YouTube channel. And then somewhere along the line that these two things kind of come together and, it gives me determination and strength to pursue a totally different life path. As I said in the beginning, that I never really considered teaching ever. It wasn't my own idea. I think when the universe is trying to set you off a different path, it gives you a little nudge here and there. I started to get people around me kind of either mistaking me as a yoga teacher, instructor when I walk in a class, or people around me kind of go, well, I think you should teach. So in the beginning, I kind of ignored the comments. Of course, what do you mean I teach yoga? I could barely do it myself. But then as I get stronger, I felt, oh, maybe it's not so far-fetched. Maybe there's something I could do. So I often have instructors that come to me, teachers that come to me that go, oh, Fan, I can see you practice a lot and you're really strong. And they kind of try to find out what is driving me for doing it. It's not my career. I'm just a normal person. And I always say to them that, doing yoga is like you go into a room in this kind of vacuum that you leave everything behind you for that hour or 90 minutes, and you just rip yourself apart and then put yourself back together by the end of the class. So by the time you walk out of that studio, you're a different person from the person you walked in. It's like that. It's like everything being reset and start from zero again. And if you have that opportunity to do that, I'm not even saying daily basis, even just 2-3 times a week, you're in a different dimension. You cannot be the same person in a good way. Because yoga, you can either put 10% in there or 100%. And everybody's different from day to day. You decide how much you have to give that day. But whatever you give, there's so much in return. And everybody receives different things in different days. It's not a given. You have to earn it. It's like a reset button that you're able to push every day. Get on the mat and start moving your body. It's not an intellectual process. You don't need to think, and that's the great thing. We think too much most of the time, and then we drive ourselves into corners. In a way, I practice yoga for selfish reasons because I want to be able to hit that reset button whenever I want, at least once a day. So I become a happier, more balanced person. And as me being a happier and balanced person, I can be more useful for others. I have the capacity to give more. And this is the thing, if I were to pursue yoga as a profession or whatever it is, in terms of income, it would be a big drop comparing to the design job. But for some strange reason, I'm not worried about that. My brain tells me I should, but I'm not. And I think that's probably one of the signs that you're on your path. Because I can recall in my life that when I kind of take a leap of faith, going in something purely based on gut instinct, don't know how things are going to pan out. The way I decided to go vegan or vegetarian in the beginning. I didn't do research. I vaguely knew what type of food I should be eating. And I didn't know whether I was going to run into problems or whatever it is, or give up. I just wasn't worried about that, because I think when every single cell of your body is telling you that this is the way to go, you kind of just have to go with it and trust that things will work out by itself. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about the yoga training. It's starting in a couple of weeks, and you could take 6 months to a year to complete, to get qualified. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I know that the talk is all over the place, but I warned you about that. It's just me freestyling. If you're still listening, thank you so much. I sincerely mean it, because being on YouTube is not a given. Just because you put videos out there doesn't mean people watch it. I'm so grateful that you find the channel useful and pleasurable to watch, or whatever it is you get out of it. So who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to meet some of you through yoga, particularly those of you in London. The future is very exciting. We're full of potentials and possibilities. So follow your heart. I think all of us are out there to help each other. I know sometimes when you look at the stuff online, you go, oh, but I think ultimately people are so kind and so generous and so helpful. So you should never be afraid. So I'm looking forward to making more content for you. And thank you for being here with me today. So follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. And thank you for spending time with me today. And I'll see you next time.